Hi guys, in this video I will show you some of the techniques that I use to make this insanely hard, yeah, definitely insanely hard to make Japanese dovetail joint. Yeah, it's took me many days to make. I actually did it for an article in Furniture and Cabinetmaking magazine. I don't go around I don't often go around making these joints just for fun. Sometimes I do. But yeah, in this video I'll show you some kind of stills and some video clips of yeah, some of the techniques and things that I've used to actually make this joint. And also link, if you click on the link above, then you'll see a how-to video, not on how to make this joint, but another kind of type of yeah, Japanese dovetail with the similar techniques that I've used in this one basically. The woods I've used for this joint, on the left is Burmese padauk, and on the right is bog oak. And yeah, that's its natural colour. It actually is black like that, and it proved very hard to chisel because it's kind of like a fossilized wood. If you want to look into bog oak or find out a bit more information about it, then yeah, please look it up. And here you can see on the paper where I've actually drawn the joint that I'm actually going to make. I won't go into lots of these kind of still pictures. I won't go into enormous detail, because if you want to find out more on how to actually cut the joint, like I mentioned, you can see that on my other video, but I'll just kind of describe what's in the picture basically. Yeah, and the video is kind of coming up. Here you can see well, if you look kind of closely, you can see it's got 6 lines down, and obviously then mirrored on the kind of left and kind of right hand side of the joint, whichever way you're looking at it. So I needed 6 sliding bevels, yeah, to make this joint basically, all set up. They're not actually set up in the drawing at the particular angle, but yeah, just to kind of demonstrate that you do actually need 6 sliding bevels to make this joint, and you'll see them, yeah, in following pictures. Here you can see the template that's stuck onto the side of the bit of timber with double-sided tape. So you can use this, the lighter timber in front as a template with the kind of sliding bevels to scalpel across the top of your timber to make it very accurate when kind of marking, the padauk one and the bog oak one, so they're exactly the same. And this is done with a scalpel, of course, which you can see in the kind of distance. After I've scalpeled the lines across the top and down the front face and down the back face, I of course mark out the waist, which you can see in yellow very faintly, and I just use a traditional dovetail saw, like an English style kind of dovetail saw, to cut away from the scalpel line. These are some of the chisels that I used to make this joint. All of them I've modified, as you can see, kind of from left to right. The really small one, I've had to bevel the edges like a lot for it to get into quite some of the extreme angles at the bottom of the joints. The second one's just a really narrow chisel that I made myself, a really thin chisel to fit into the gaps. The next one is a Japanese chisel. I had to use this because the steel is obviously a lot harder, and I had to grind a lot off the top so it would fit in the narrow spaces. And the same, the other one, the one on the far right, is just a standard chisel that kind of made a lot thinner basically to get into the tight spaces, as you can see here in this picture. It's yeah, that was the hardest one to do basically, right on the end of the first one I cut out, and yeah, quite an acute angle and really hard to get like into that corner, and all the grain direction really kind of messes with your head on that one. After cutting those 2 end pieces, well, the waist out shall I say, here you can see I've had to put spacers in, and I know it may look peculiar, you may like, what on earth are you doing there? Well, these are to stop when I cut the next one, which is I haven't actually sawed all of them out. I've kind of sawed the 2 end ones, because clearly if you sawed all of the joint by the time you started pairing the kind of next one in, then the other one would just snap off because of the short grain basically. So these two bits of wood and subsequently the other ones, you sellotape in, and yeah, helps support the piece after it's kind of cut away basically, as you can see in some of these pictures. And here you can see that I was using a after I've used obviously my dovetail saw, you can see I use this fret saw to chop out the waste, and now you can understand why I need these spacers, because there is very little left on the kind of on the left hand side, and it's such short grain, so yeah, surely chiseling out to the line, you're gonna snap that that one off basically. Here you can see me pairing the center pin down, and I forgot to mention before when I mentioned the chisels, the reason why I used the Japanese chisel in particular for the bog oak is because it's kind of almost semi-fossilized wood that's been in a bog for 3,000 to 5,000 years, so it dulled all of my other chisels basically, so that's why I could only use the Japanese chisel for chiseling this wood. It was really didn't help basically with the complexity of the joint alone. I didn't need a wood that was like stone basically, so it was a real pain in the butt. When I cleaned up all of this joint before I made the other one, I thought it was only fitting to take a video of how insanely delicate the joint is, and I apologise about the camera flicker. I tried to get rid of it, but it made the whole joint too grainy, so apologies about that. But you can really see it doesn't give it justice, obviously, when the joint's together, how crazy weak this joint is. It's probably the weakest joint like ever for the time spent on it basically. Moving on to the Badook side, I skipped obviously the kind of scalpeling of it because it was using the exact same template basically, scalpeled on the top, on the front and on the back, but obviously cutting out the opposite waist than before. The spacers on this one I kind of cut from the center out, so it was obviously the reverse of the other one basically, but the spacers and just much of the same as the other joint basically, supported as I kind of went along to stop the thing snapping off. Here you can see the technique I used to make the joint faces like absolutely like kind of engineering flat basically, which they have to be for the whole thing to kind of fit together. So I had a flat bit of steel with 320 grit sandpaper stuck onto it basically, and it's kind of like a file but with sandpaper just kind of stuck on it, and then you'd flip the thing around, the bit of steel around, to then see if there was any shadows like on the joint. So you just had to know that it was completely flat before you tried to put the thing together. This has got to be one of my favourite shots. You can clearly see that this joint is ridiculously weak, and so delicate. I was very lucky not to snap anything off, but I had to have kind of nerves of steel, and trying to pair the thing without it snapping was quite a tall order, but luckily I made it. Again, I'm so glad I did make these videos, and apologies again for the annoying camera flicker. Again, you can just really see that if you sneezed hard near this joint that it clearly would snap off. It wouldn't stand up to anything at all. But so glad I did make these shots, because it doesn't give it justice yet together to see how insanely weak it is. This is me test fitting the joint as far as I was comfortable to push it. It was not extremely tight, but tight enough that clearly if I put it any further in, then it would have snapped something coming back out basically. So I kind of did test fit it as far as I was comfortable, and then took the thing back out back out again, just to make sure. I knew from that test fit that pushing the thing together without some kind of support was just, yeah, crazy. Basically, I knew it was just they were gonna snap off. So in this picture you can see those white bits are actually wood, and they've been glued to the kind of outside of the joint as like a splint or a rib of some sort. You can see in this second picture, yeah, to stop the thing from splitting, and also it kind of doubles up as a clamping block. So that was actually the thing that I clamped it together with. Here you can see the clamp up kind of process, I guess, just in case I did need the pressure, which I did need a little bit, I guess, to get the shoulders to kind of fully close up. Like I said, you can't fully test these joints all the way home and take them apart again. You have to just trust that your templates are accurate. So yeah, it was just, yeah, the clamps were there just in case, but yeah, luckily it was pretty good. Yeah, just use sash clamps basically, and Titebond original to glue the thing up. Next I planed the joint down after I left it overnight, and yeah, I was very pleased with the results. No cracking or anything like that. I was, yeah, as you can imagine, since this joint took me many days to make, I was quite relieved that it all went together very happily. Yeah, so just planed it down and sanded it, and here you can see I've put a coat of oil. I used Osmo oil, like satin clear. I actually brushed it on to give it a thicker coat basically. And here it is, the finished article. I was really, yeah, very pleased. It could have gone horribly wrong on many occasions, but yeah, I was very happy. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully it hasn't been too boring. You've learned a few different techniques, and if you do want to attempt, yeah, a joint like this yourself, if you're feeling brave, then yeah, check out my other videos like I mentioned to see the kind of other how-to of a kind of basic one, so you get the kind of the principles of how this joint is kind of put together, because it's very different from well, it's called a Japanese dovetail joint, but it's very different from a standard dovetail joint. But yeah, thanks again for watching, guys, and please